Welcome to Everything Life Coaching. I'm John Kim.
And I'm Noelle Cordeau. We are the founders of Lumia.
And we're super passionate about all things coaching, and we want to share what we've learned from over a decade of coaching and training thousands of life coaches.
Let's dive into the science and magic of coaching.
On today's episode, Noelle and I are going to talk about the stars. Noelle, what should we even title this episode?
Well, you know, and folks who know me well, the winter solstice is one of my favorite days of the year. It is a holiday that I personally mark, and it's a holiday that frankly reminds me of Lumia in so many different ways. And so we're going to talk about, celebrate, and mark the solstice today.
I don't even know. I'm not big on astrology, although of course I've had readings, but I don't even know what the winter solstice is. I know it's the day of the year where it's the fewest hours of daylight. But why is this so meaningful to you?
Yeah. So the history of celebrating the solstice is really, really rich. Mm-hmm. And it is, while you are correct that it is astrological, a better word would be astronomical, which is where we're literally looking at the position of the Earth in the sky as it relates to light and daylight. And the winter solstice is the day of the year where we have the fewest hours of daylight. And after the winter solstice, the days start to become longer and light starts to return and spring is promised. And this is a time for planning for your harvest and for renewal. And it's, to me, just visually, metaphorically, spiritually, philosophically, the idea of marking the day of, you know, the last moment of long winter and then opening up our experience to have light and flood in with renewal is powerful. Mm-hmm. And it reminds me of coaching.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And also, I got to say, a John Kim-ism happened because I read astronomical, but what I thought I read was astrology or something with stars. And that's why I said we're going to talk about stars today, but we are actually... the stars have nothing to do with this.
Well, they do,
because this is a seasonal thing.
I mean, you know, let's be real. The sun is a star.
Sure.
Okay. Right. So, you know, we can go with that. The sun is a star. And this marking is all about light. Right. And there's a long history of humans reckoning specifically with this day and observing it as early as the Neolithic period, which was the last part of the Stone Age. So this was year 10,200 BC was the first known time when humans became aware of this exact calendar date. And when I was first becoming aware of the solstice as a holiday, I really liked a lot of the Norse traditions where you would have folks to your home and party and celebrate to light your house from the inside on the darkest day of the year. But as I've learned more about it, solstice celebrations have been present across culturally in so many different ways. Roman, Scandinavian, European pagans, Incan, Japanese, Iranian, the Native American Pueblos, and Chinese cultures all have solstice celebrations.
So what do you do how do you celebrate the winter solstice?
I typically throw a party.
I thought you would.
Yeah. That is what I do. I open my home to all of my friends. I have a really specific menu that I make a huge pot of jambalaya. I make a couple different big pans of baked ziti or lasagna, and everybody knows the drill. Everybody brings food. Everyone brings drink. and we have a really good time. It's a nice way for people in my life from all different areas, people in my life from all different generations to come together and have formed friendships over the years, knowing that every year on the solstice show up at Noelle's house and I'm going to see the same people.
I love this. I never knew you did this, and I've never even heard of people doing this. So this is all new for me. That's awesome.
For me, it started out as a gratitude party.
Mm,
And I got that idea from one of my coaches back in the day, who also happens to be a very famous positive psychology researcher, Caroline Miller. And the idea of a gratitude party for me stemmed from my divorce. When I got divorced, I was 29 years old, and I was physically sick. My body was
mm,
really run down. I had
right.
been through a lot, and in so many ways, I was weak. I had a hard time caring for myself. I had a hard time caring for my house,
Mhm.
and so many people in my life showed up for me and literally took care of me, made me food. If I couldn't be at home, gave me a couch to sleep on,
Mm.
encouraged me to go to graduate school, pushed me to go integrate more into society, not to run and hide. And once I had kind of gotten through,
This was friends or friends and family?
this was friends, family,
Mhm.
colleagues, just
Yeah.
the entire
Wow, that's amazing.
constellation of my life. And I wanted to throw a party for all of these people who had
Oh,
done something for me,
so
and
it was a way of giving back for I mean,
it
it was
was
a
my
way of,
way of
appreciating them.
Yep, it was my way of giving back. It was my way of showing appreciation and really leaning into what we know cross culturally is that across all of the cultures that I mentioned, the common threads in solstice celebrations include the celebration of light,
Mhm.
harvest, the celebration of resources, luck, renewal, and community.
I love it. I love the spirit of this, and also it's interesting because you got divorced at 29 and I got married. You were leaving it as I was coming in, basically.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I love that for you after the divorce, it's like the village came, and held you, and then this was your, celebrating and appreciating them. That's really awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that, that's so much to do with luck, right? Looking back at my little 29-year-old self, I was a lovable critter. I was a hot
Mhm.
mess.
Yeah.
and
We all
there were
were. Yeah.
and there were so many people that were just like, "Oh no, honey. Like, let's help you out."
Mm.
And that idea of community is so real and present, in the solstice and in solstice celebrations, and kind of tying it to coaching and to what we do at Lumia through the lens of positive psychology. Communities have existed throughout history to provide safety, resources, companionship, belonging, and information exchange.
Mm.
What has your experience been with community over the years?
It's funny because I had a very different experience than you, after divorce, because the holidays, Christmas, being probably the hardest, I was totally alone.
Mm.
And, when I was married, the holidays, things like this, whether it's Thanksgiving, Christmas, or even things like, celebrating winter solstice, I had a lot of that when I was married because of big family, and, when the divorce happened, that was completely eliminated, and so, I found myself alone. So there was a lot of loneliness, but also solitude, and I had to, because I couldn't make friends overnight, right? So I had to, figure out how I'm gonna get through the holidays, make them meaningful, and not fall into, a depression.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
really hard.
Yeah, I'm sorry you went through that. And you bring up a really good point that community is often the basis of social capital,
Mhm.
where people gain access to social resources and really specifically psychosocial resources. And it's through those roles like husband or
Mm,
ritual, like,
right, right.
holidays and narratives that actually give us a sense of our meaning and our identity. And when people are removed from those types of communities, it hurts them. It's a very real pain.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I learned through that experience that, because I used to think in my 20s that friends were extra. We don't need friends, go build your empire, and then when you have time, you make friends. I thought travel was extra, and it wasn't until, I was stripped of friends that I realized, "Oh, they're not extra." Community, friendships, people around you is foundational.
Yeah, and it's really surprising to me, to hear you talk about the way that your values have changed, because
Yeah.
when I came to know you, your friendships were the hallmarks of your life. I met so many of your good friends,
Yeah, you
and
met me when I was coming out of it. I mean, when you met me when I started to actually then build a little village for myself.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So let's talk about building the village.
Mhm.
Um, so communities, as we understand communities in terms of durable social resources, once had geographical boundaries. And for better or for worse, this is no longer the case. With the internet, with different social groups, with political movements, with different fandoms, community today is totally different. It's best understood as a group of people who have a common interest or purpose or need and who share common values.
Mhm.
How did you start to rebuild community? Where did you start as your kind of ground zero foundation?
Yeah, you said common interest, and I started there. So, that was for me fitness, and then, through fitness, which was the common interest that brought us in, um, friendships, barbecues, competitions, and then that started. But then the other common interest was online, uh meeting people who also, like me, wanted to work in honest ways, helping people who were going through the same thing, and then, building communities online. That was
Mm,
also, yeah, that was also, so I had the real life, communities, and then I also started building, online communities. And I gotta say, and everyone knows this, especially today, that online communities are just as real, and we know this from, Lumia.
absolutely. Absolutely. Meeting you was actually my first introduction to the power of online community.
Right, yeah, you were, a part of my, online community as well, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was back, kind of brought to my knees by divorce, reinventing myself, looking around. And at that time, I had even been estranged from my family during my first marriage. And so I needed to rebuild literally in every single direction.
Mhm.
And I did the same thing, common interest. There were a couple of different groups that I became a part of, that were really important to me. One of them was the music scene.
Right.
I kind of went headfirst into touring around with different bands, which was really fun. And you have your little crew, and everybody has their common purpose or need or shared values. And then graduate school was
Mm.
an unexpected community where people were all really interested in the same thing, and that kind of intellectual common value system is what ultimately led me to find you and the TAT community, and then build Lumia based on those same values alongside of you.
Yeah, it's interesting for you, it was those 2. So it's like we had different, ways in, but at the same time, we also had, kind of 2 pistons going as far as communities and building communities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And what's important to know, about maintaining community, maintaining your bonds within community, that rituals, customs, and celebrations like the solstice are empirically recognized and validated ways to build and maintain community, because they offer positive emotional connection and shared experience.
Mm.
And studies show that when people have contact with others, that really specifically includes sharing common goals and sharing narratives, which is basically storytelling, telling your story, all of the people involved benefit through increased trust and well-being.
Yeah. It reminds me of, back in the day campfires, and how that produces closeness and relatability and feeling less alone and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And, and the rituals don't have to be expansive. And, everyone makes fun of me, but I am a fish fan. I am a diehard fish fan and I love them. And the ritual that is baked into being a part of that community is epic and hilarious.
Hmm.
How many shows have you gone to? What songs do you want to hear? This show? Can you call the opener for the first set? These are specific chants and dances at the shows.
Hmm.
These are all, really baked in human ways for a group of people to have a common experience. What are some rituals that you see present in the communities that you're a part of?
I would say for me, motorcycle rides, us getting together and shooting up or down PCH. We have a ritual now where Vanessa's friends from New York and us, we meet in upstate New York to pick apples every fall.
Oh,
So we rent an Airbnb. So that's become we've done it 3 years in a row, and that's become a highlight of my life. I can't as the year comes by, I can't wait to do that. Um, and then back in the day, Buddy and I used to have this thing called the Nines, and we would invite purposely 9 strangers, whether it was someone who drove an Uber or your best friend. It didn't matter, and kind of just shared a meal together. And so I do versions of that, little micro communities here and there. And so all of that is, those are all ways that I engage. I'm an introvert, so if I don't force myself to do things like that, I could end up, in a cave.
I always forget that you're an introvert.
Yeah.
Probably because we talk with frequency. But I get it. I get it. And so, as if you're listening and you are an introvert as well, when you join a community that has a purpose or a goal that is larger than you don't have to be responsible for driving the bus in terms of planning, sourcing, holding that ritual. I think coaching is a field, a discipline, and Lumia, especially as a coaching organization, is a really great example of how the spirit of ritual and the spirit of the solstice can be
Mhm.
celebrated. And coaching is a field that has so many opportunities for joining, not just our Lumia community, which is awesome, but the field of coaching itself. The International Coaching Federation has chapters in
Yeah.
most cities all over the world. So we're not just talking about the United States, we're talking about international engagement. And there are people who share your intellectual interests, who share your goals for entrepreneurship, or business building, business bettering. And it's a wonderful occupation to be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, I see it, every time I run office hours. I see that community, us getting closer, support, we all championing each other's stories and feeling less alone. I see the magic there and also in all the cohorts.
Yeah, and even implicit in the coach client relationship, the field of coaching itself relies on shedding light on our blind spots so
Mhm.
that we can literally overcome barriers, gain new resources, and become the person that we've always wanted to be. I
Yeah.
can't think of a more positive and affirming way to work.
Yeah, I know that, I've spent a lot of my life alone, and I spent a lot of my life, with community, and, definitely happier with people around me, and I also know that we sharpen each other through each other, so,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
100%. And we know, how beneficial engagement is within our own Lumia community, and we see it through so many different channels, whether it's Slack channels, Facebook groups, our coaching cafe, office hours, our mentor groups, our live virtual gatherings. Resource sharing is really the foundation of what we do. And we've seen the incredible impact that intentionality has. So some prompts for reflection, because if you are a part of the Lumia community, thank you. We love you. We celebrate you. If you'd like to join the Lumia community, we welcome you. And if you're listening and you're a solo coach practitioner, you're like, oh man, I'm sad that I don't have this. Some reflection prompts are, what can you do in your own sphere to bring people together in community this solstice? John, is there anything that's come up for you that you're thinking about that's been new?
I don't know about new. I know that I'm drawn to nature more. I think it's going to have the celebration would be something that involves nature, friends, food, and giving back in some way. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
For me, I'm going to do what I always do, cook a ton of food and keep my door unlocked so people can show up.
I love it.
And, as we're really kind of jumping through the hoops of the tradition towards, luck and celebration, which comes in both the Roman, Chinese, and Japanese traditions, looking past to the year that kind of ended with all of this this darkness, what do you want to celebrate? What do you want to light up the world with that was good for you?
Oh man, what a it's such a question it's such a big question, and something to kind of think about, and to sum it up in one word is really hard. I would say, the word that comes to me is hope. I know we live in a world right now where there's a lot going on. It's very noisy. But I'm very hopeful. And I don't know if that's I know it starts with a choice, but hope in not only the macro, the world, and for our existence and beings, but also hope with self and my own personal story, and me continuing to swim toward my island and my true north. Yeah, for me, I think the word would be hopeful.
I love that. I'm going to join you in hope. And, my hope has a lot of different well springs, but I have a lot of hope in humanity. I observe people showing up in different ways every day, and especially within our Lumia community, showing up to make a real difference in the world and in the lives of others, even if it's just by holding space. And I'm hopeful that we are getting closer to a position where folks are able to put the noise aside and grab hold of our shared humanity.
Yeah.
And that sense of oneness seems to be growing stronger, even though when we look at the news or scan our phones, it may appear to not be the case, right? Something that showed up for me that made me really excited is that the use of social media is declining. And I was like, yes.
I didn't know that.
There is hope. Yes. Yeah. And there seems to be a little bit of a wake up going on, but don't worry, John, TikTok is still like really strong. And because we're coaches, and a lot of what goes down with the solstice is intentions towards harvesting with the spring and renewal. What do you want to put forth to harvest in the new year?
Man, so many hard questions this morning, Noelle.
I'm sorry.
What do I want to put forward? Let me buy myself some time, and maybe you could answer it first for the new year.
Yeah. So for me, if I'm thinking about, planting seeds and harvesting, my health is
Mhm.
is number one. I've had COVID like 4 times, and no joke, it has diminished the quality of my health. And so I am on a journey to get my resting heart rate back to where it was before I got really knocked out, and to turn all of my dials on a regular basis to ensure that I have energy and clarity to continue to do the work that I really love to do. Because the thing that has gotten in the way for me has not been having enough energy day in and day out when I really need to show up and want to show up,
Yeah.
to create ripples in society.
If yours is health, and of course I can relate to that as well as I swim toward 50, I'm gonna say kindness. I'm gonna say I've um, gotten busy and forgot the importance of kindness. And when I say kindness, I'm talking to strangers. I'm talking about, to the barista, to everyone, not only just the people in your, life. Uh, Kinder to my partner, because I can be fast to anger. I can be very impatient. I can be, a bit of a tornado. And so tying kindness to being more grounded, and ultimately, I think it leads to a spiritual path. So I want to plant that seed.
I love that. All right, more hard questions. How can your community support you in harvesting?
I think conversations like this, where it encourages the reminder, to plant seeds, and a lot of times when we're having conversations, whether it's via podcast or office hours or in any way, mirrors are held up, right? And so
Mm.
through these conversations and through following other people's stories, I hold up mirrors and see what I need to do in my life. So for me, that's the most powerful. Even individual sessions where I'm helping other people, I also get a lot out of it.
Yeah, and for me, I think that the way that my community can help me in harvesting is to allow grace
Mhm.
and a reminder for rest, and to have a shared commitment to limit hustle culture and
Mm.
increase the quality of our culture
Yeah,
in
I love that.
instead. Yeah.
Yes, yes, quality. Quality over quantity, depth over width is kind of the theme.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And because, community is active because it's give and take. Given our goals, what will you offer to your community in return?
Time and presence. I
Mm,
think to me that's the most valuable.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um, I have to think about this because time and presence are things that I often give freely, and that's also maybe where I overextend a little bit.
sure, sure.
So I think that what I might offer to my community in return is a deeper intentionality
Mm.
that will hopefully allow for greater quality in my work, in my time, in the way that I show up.
I love it. Thank you for this conversation because if you're listening, hopefully this is, um, if anything, a reminder, or hopefully it stirs something in you to ask yourself the same questions.
Yes, and happy solstice.
Yes. Thank you for shedding light on something I had no idea existed.
That's okay. I'll FaceTime you from the party.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Be well,
All
everyone.
right. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Everything Life Coaching. If you're feeling the draw to become a coach, head to lumiacoaching.com/everything. Explore a new career that brings fulfillment, gives you a true sense of purpose, and a bold community to do it with.
Lumia is ready to equip you with the tools, training, and community you will need to reach your goals. If you're ready to build a unique coaching business on your own terms while making an impact on the world at large, Lumia is the next bold step in your coaching journey. That's lumiacoaching.com/everything.
And hey, if you're waiting for a sign, this is it.